We're going live. We're live right now on the interwebs. All right. Wow. It's another Event Icons time. This episode, I know I say this about every episode that it's going to be extremely awesome, but we truly have someone in on today that is iconic. Like this group that plans events, if you had to think of who's like the number one name in conferences, who puts together the best thought leadership content that everybody would love to attend, that you've probably watched their content before, you have heard of these guys. It is TED. They are, I mean, the producers of like the leading thought leadership content in the entire world. And they are doing something really, really incredible and going not just by focusing on content and the stuff that you know about the TED Talks, but instead they're moving towards community, which you know I've been talking so much about. So I'm really excited to talk more about how they're building this online community, how TED is transforming into the future, and where we're going. And you know, I guess got to get this episode started because I have so many questions. Let's rock that intro.
Hey, it's time for another episode of Hashtag Event Icons, presented by Endless Events, the show where you get to ask the icons of the events industry anything. Just follow us on social media to ask questions. Our iconic guests will answer them live during the entire show. Before we get started, the more people we have watching, the better the conversation. So please help share Hashtag Event Icons on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Just tell your friends to watch live on any of our social media channels. Now, without any further delay, this is Hashtag Event Icons.
Woo! Okay. I just got to get through the intro fast. That was a long intro because I'm just so excited and I'm definitely fanboying out a little bit. But I got to introduce our guest for today, Monique Ruff-Bell. Monique is in charge of all the conferences at TED, head of conferences. And I'm just so excited to have you here because you announced this like move towards community and all this exciting stuff. And Monique, it's just such a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me. First of all, you started singing and doing a little ditty. I need a little theme song of my own, like to get my little juices pumping too. So
You know,
I'm so
you
happy
got to
to
get
be
it
here.
going. You know, we're recording on a Friday today, so it's like end of week energy. You know, get to have some fun. So
Right.
I definitely failed like doing dance classes though and singing classes though. So that's probably the maximum skill you'll get out of me when it
But
comes to
Will,
the
can I
musical.
tell you? So when I have my team together, we have what's the theme song of the day when we're like on
Ooh.
site to get us pumped up.
Oh heck yeah!
And so, you got to get the juices flowing because you don't want people to be crying in the corner because something went wrong. So it's just like let's stay
Let's.
pumped up.
So do
And
you
so
guys
I
like
did
bust
my
out like a Bluetooth speaker and then you just like
I
someone picks
do.
a song and then you guys just have like a dance party real quick at the beginning of
I
the day?
do. And so
Oh,
I
that's
have a
awesome.
theme song for today, and it was
Ooh.
like LL Cool J, Mama Said Knock You Out, because I'm going to come really together and hyped and ready to make a really good conversation.
I love that. That's incredible. I think I'm gonna steal that idea of you get the pump up song at the beginning of the day. Like
Right.
sometimes that's what you need, you know? Like otherwise you sometimes get a little bit like the nervous energy, like anxiousness. Otherwise, like you need to turn into that like positive high energiness. So
That's right. I'm ready. Let's
I
go.
love it. I love it. Well, before we dive into talking about this kind of transformation and next level for where TED's going, I want to give you a chance to tell your story because you've been doing events for a very long period of time and you haven't been at TED since the beginning. So tell us the journey of like what got you to where you are today and how you became head of conferences for potentially one of the biggest brands when it comes to conferences.
I mean, I tell this story all the time, and it has something to do with LL Cool J.
No way, that's the tie-in. Oh, that's amazing.
It really does. So, when I was in college and you're trying to figure out what you want to do with your life and you pick a general topic like marketing, you don't know what direction you're going to go into. So I got this wonderful internship with this very small event and media company. And the first event that we did had LL Cool J as
No
one of our
way.
main speakers. And when he
Wow.
came off the stage, he gave me a hug and I like melted and I was like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. Like, I
Oh my
want to do
gosh,
these
that's
wonderful
amazing.
events. And so that was my path. And, I've done events in publishing, media, associations, event companies. and really just done every single role you can think about in events. I have been a logistics operations person. I have been a content person. I have been a marketer. I have been a meeting planner. I have been a venue coordinator. I have been everything. And it really gave me a great background to kind of lead events because I know what everything takes. I know all of the pain points. I have the empathy of a million people when it comes to some of the challenges that happens when you're putting on events. And so, to go and grow in my career has been fabulous and fantastic. And I enjoy it so much, and I'm not leaving this industry.
That's amazing. I think you're one of the few people we've had on the show too who you jumped straight into like business conferences like immediately too. Like
Right.
a lot of people like they may have started like on the social side and that was like kind of what journeyed them towards business events and but you literally had like a A-list celebrity like keynote hug you on your first day of work basically.
And then it was like, that's it. This is where
That's
I need
it.
to be. And I've
That's
met
game
many
over.
more wonderful celebrities and non-celebrities in this business. A lot of people have become really good friends or contacts. And I enjoy the business I enjoy business events, but I also really think that we don't do enough touting about how this industry is. You are a business strategist.
Mhm.
You are making sure that you are giving a good experience. You are managing multiple different lines of things happening at your event. You have to care about revenue. You have to care about all of the vendor relationships that you have. It's a lot. And so it's a real viable career and it's a great career.
I love it. I love that you are reminding everyone. I think like one of the most important things about that events industry is that like it's also a business too. Like I think
Right.
sometimes we get caught up in a lot of like the creative design, the energy, the expressiveness of it. But then reality like is like ultimately we also have to make sure that it's sustainable profitably. We have to make sure that it's like, obtain the goals of our stakeholders or achieving the goals if we're a nonprofit, whatever that may be. It's a business in the end of the day, and I think that's so great to remind everybody too. Um,
Absolutely. You always have to showcase value to your bosses.
it's true. This is very true. This is very true. And that's how like we also move from being, the event planners in the industry towards being like the chief event officer and sitting, being able to talk to the CEO, the CMOs at that level of conversation too. So I want to give a chance, and I think you're going to probably then lead into probably the deep dive conversation of the community portion of it. But I'd love to give a chance to just give a broad question to you is, Ted has been this leader in conferences and especially in content, right? Like literally everyone says we're going to do TED Talk style events at our conferences, right? Like you guys literally have created the game of how to deliver impactful talks at events. But you guys are always constantly moving forward and doing new things and innovating and showing with the community. But what's changing at TED, and what's like where do you guys see the future of where conferences are going? That's usually a good end question, but I'm gonna start off with a banger with you. Where do you guys see the future going, and where's TED see kind of the future of TED going?
I would say community has always been the heartbeat of TED. TED started in 1984. It's been around for a very, very long time. And you have people who have been coming, and a lot of people don't even know that our talks are recorded at a conference. It- you know, most of our talks are recorded at one of our major flagship conferences, which is about 80 different talks in Vancouver every year in April. Like people actually buy tickets to come to see that. And so when you have people who have that investment into, this is not a transactional conference. This is not where you're going to just figure out how to do business with someone. This is because you want a personal connection with the community. You want to personally grow and become a better human being. You want to think differently. You want to connect differently. There might be some professional aspects to it, but that's not the main part of that. And so for someone to take the time for a 5-day conference to invest that much time, that much money and energy, because we're also a nonprofit. And so we take what happens at this flagship conference from a revenue standpoint to help support all of the free things that we do from a media standpoint. And so not a lot of people understand the inner workings of, why we do what we do, how we host conferences and convenings. We are community builders. We call ourselves the playground for the curious. We are bringing people who are really looking to just expand their minds, like maybe when they did in school and you used to have those crazy debates with people over the most mundane things, or you just kind of started thinking differently because you just had this crazy conversation with someone. Like, we're the place for that. And so we always are thoughtful about how can we always continue to elevate that connective tissue to our attendees, to each other, not just about us, but to each other, and to facilitate growth from a personal standpoint.
That's awesome, man. And I'm guessing one of the big things is because you guys have so much presence in terms of media, in terms of the TEDx conferences that are happening year round, your guys' main flagship conferences that are happening, that you guys are also trying to almost contain all this energy that's happening, I'm guessing, within like the comments on YouTube, the comments on your website and everything like that, and try to like draw it into like a centralized place. Does that like seem like what the strategy is for why you guys are deciding to move towards more of like an online community central place for everyone to kind of live in?
Yeah, well, our foundation is ideas worth spreading. And so we want to give opportunity for various community members to have access to these platforms in order to do that, right? So TED has TED flagship events, which is what I oversee and manage. And then TEDx is our licensing program. So we don't charge anyone to get a license. You basically apply and you said, I love what you do. I want to do this in my town, my city. And we want to record these talks and all of these wonderful things. We're all about spreading ideas that are worth spreading. And so when we're looking at comments that are everywhere, that's fine for us, because that's spreading the ideas, that's sharing what people are learning.
It's okay that's in different platforms.
It's okay. We want to meet people where they are. And so if you're really about spreading ideas, it can't be just, I want to spread ideas just in this little box. It is about, I want to meet people where they are, and I want to get the word out that if we can help shape thoughts in a way that people want to become better human beings, people want to be more helpful to the world, people want to just have a spark within them that makes them become better for themselves, we are happy to figure out various ways to do that for you.
That's awesome. Okay, I'm avoiding going down very specific rabbit holes because I gotta stay keep focused on delivering because I'm thinking a million questions of what I want to know answers to too. But so when it comes to this idea for the community model that you guys are building, how does this help your larger kind of flagship conferences? Is the goal that do you guys have kind of a plan for how you want people to eventually attend a flagship conference? Or is, like you said, meet everybody anywhere? Are you okay with attendees consistently attending a TEDx conference, for example, or, only watching content online? What is your guys' kind of plan as part of the community, as part of the attendee journey life cycle for your attendees? That makes sense.
Absolutely. When TED came into YouTube, which is one of the biggest platforms that we kind of are on there, we were one of the first to say, take this content, free, and enjoy what, it wasn't about let's drive people to the flagships. That's not the foundation of what we're trying to do. It is really a pure way of how we think about this, which is how can we create community with curious people who want to expand or grow or develop new ways of thinking that can better help society or help themselves as a person to grow and think differently. So in the end, you're going to have a different group of people that can come to our flagships just because there is a cost aspect to that might be a little bit premium. But like I said, the purpose of that premium price tag for that flagship is to help us invest and do other things free for other communities that we have. We have various initiatives here at TED. We actually have a funding line called Audacious, where we help to bring funders to other people and organizations who want to do good in the world. We have TEDx, we have TED Courses, we have TED Masterclass, we have TED Ed, where we put these wonderful programs together for teachers and students between K through 12. We have a lot of things that we do where we want to give to the world in different ways. And, the flagship can help fund some of that, but then you have the TEDx where it's just free. and you can just have access to that, and that's okay. And then it's online. It's just going to help you feed yourself in different ways, and it's easy and accessible for you. So it's never about how we're driving people one way or another. We want to meet people where they are.
I love it. I love it. I'm going Will mode and asking a lot of questions, but I want to give a quick shout out to Ron, who's I see is in the audience as well. Also, if anyone has questions right now for Monique, you got to ask them, because this is your chance right here. One of the smartest people in the events industry right in front of you, answering your questions live. So make sure that you ask those questions in the comments down below. We'd love to see them. Okay, so so can you talk us through a little bit about what does this online community that you're building look like, and kind of what, because it sounds like it's going to be a great chance to also expose people to more parts of the organization that they may not have been aware of before. They might have been only aware of the TED Talks, but not aware of TED Ed or the funding program you're talking about. But can you talk a little bit about what does this actual online community look like, and, you know, more of the tactics that you guys are implementing within it?
So we don't have just an online community. We have a community, and we meet people in different ways. So we actually launched, I think about a year or so ago. I joined TED in January. And so when I had the opportunity to join the organization, it was like, oh my God, I get to go somewhere where my values are shared there. Like, I think I believe in climate change, and I believe in education, and I believe in how we can become better humans and improve society and all of that good stuff. And to be at a place where I get to sit and see the thought leaders of the world really talk about not just the what, but the how in very dynamic ways, in amazing storytelling, was like a thing for me. So I was like fangirling about that opportunity as well. And for us, when we talk about building community, we are saying, how can one touch 1,000? How can the way that you think about things differently, and you getting motivated, inspired to be a helpful human in different ways, how can we bring something that's going to do that for you? But also, how can we help with impact? How can we be more than just a platform where we're sharing ideas with the world, but we're actually figuring out how we can match people to the right people who want to fund them and to help them and to do good. And so when I'm thinking about, let's say, the flagship event, it was really interesting, because my first time going to a TED conference is when I started at TED. And so I just went to my first TED conference in April of 2022. And then I walked in there and I'm like, I come from the B2B world. I come from the B2C world. I'm looking at it like, okay, what's this all about? What's all this, hubbubaloo about TED or whatever? And when I went there and I had went out to dinner, I was seated next to an astronomer, a space guy whose wife was an astronaut, a psychologist, a comedian, and a magician. And I'm like, what?
Sounds like the start of a good bar joke, like a magician, a psychologist, and an astronomer walking to a bar. Sorry,
where am I? I'm like, where am I? And like, what is this? And I kid you not, we had some of the most engaging, fun conversation that I think I've ever had. Everyone there was interesting, and they didn't even know it. They didn't even know how fascinating they were. And I'm talking about an educator, a teacher, from anyone who's just like, I saved up for years because I wanted to have this TED experience and I wanted to come here. And it just filled your cup up of, oh my God, there's so much awe and wonderful things happening in the world that these individuals are doing, and how inspiring they are. And so we want to mesh that together all the time at the conference. We create, our simulcast pods where if you don't want to sit in the theater, you want to sit out, it's out in the open, but it's configured in a particular way that you're going to turn to this person and say, did you just hear that? And you're going to automatically make a friend or make a buddy our activations are set up in a way that you are going to bump into someone and have that a conversation that you never thought you were going to have with someone. You're also going to have a playground. We have wonderful fun things that happen where you can play backgammon again, and you can play Pac-Man with each other and battle stuff. Like, we want people to also have joy and fun within the conference, but we always come back to the connective tissue. What is going to make someone want to talk or connect with someone else? Or what is going to make someone engage with that stage in a way where their mind is going to be blown?
Interesting. Okay. I got 3 questions to kind of come out of that last little bit.
One question gets 3.
Yeah. One question turns into 3 for me for sure. So first, I want to make like a note something. I think it's really interesting to talk about like the fact that like everybody was interesting in their own way, but they didn't really know about it. It's like the humbleness that comes from it. And I think that shows a lot in your guys' content, that the people that come up and speak, they don't feel like, I think I remember watching one time, I think there's this like famous TED Talk where the person was like very egotistical. It might not have been a TED Talk, maybe a different conference, but it was like in that format. And I remember that like people gave so much flack that they're like, that's not what this is about. And what's funny is that you watch like these celebrities who like are huge, like A-list celebrities come and do the TED Talks, and you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, this person's gonna come and they know what they're doing, but it feels like they're so human as part of the content that you guys are creating. It feels like that's a big part of your guys' culture that you've designed in these events, is that like they're interesting, fascinating, smart people that you can learn so much from, but then you don't feel like there's ego involved in any sort of way.
People don't come with their representative. They come, like I said, you're not going to come there, maybe eventually, there's business owners, there's, high level people that are there, but they're like, I came here to breathe. I came here so that I don't have to tell everybody what my job is, or that's the first thing I lead with. I come here as a pure human being who's looking to just listen to wonderful people share wonderful stories. And, the people that are on that stage, we have a robust training program. You just don't say, I want to give a TED Talk, and then you get on the stage. There's about a 3-month cycle of training for you to really properly put a story together in 18 minutes. That's not easy. Not a lot of people feel comfortable condensing and really being powerful and really starting with the heart of what and the connection that they need to make with the audience first before they get into the meat of that. That's content training. That's important. And in your events, if you want to make impact with the audience, you can't just let people just get on a stage and say whatever they want to say. That you have to really understand, are they making impact with your audience, and what do you need to do to help them do that? And so that's what I love about TED is I come from a B2B world. We facilitate doing business with each other. And that is not what this is. And that it is about a connective tissue for community to elevate themselves, either in a personal way or in societal, how they can contribute to society.
Yeah, you're turning my one question into 3 more. I just wrote down like 5 more notes on things I want to ask about. So to jump back to the pods outside. So you're saying the design, because I think this is a cool tactic idea for people to implement to design events. They're basically like live stream headsets or like a speaker setup outside right. Whereas like in the main stage, shh, be quiet, don't talk. But outside there, you're saying, oh, we're too cool with people talking while also listening to the talk. Is that about right?
Absolutely, and it's not hidden in a room. So you don't go into
it's like right in the hallway.
It's in the hallway.
Oh, wow.
With the screens or whatever, and people might be walking past, and then they hear something that connects with them, and they pause. They might have been going somewhere else, wanting to do something else, but they just heard a speaker on the stage that really caught their attention, and they pause, and then they sit down, and then they listen, and then they engage or whatever. We are all about creating those experiences for people to continually engage with each other. Now, I know I have people who are like, I'd rather be by myself. I don't want to engage. And that's when you go sit in the theater.
Yeah, exactly. You get the beanbag in the front row and you can be by yourself.
Exactly. But people come there and they had no idea that this was everything that we do. We take people off site on wonderful experiences that are happening around the city. We bring people from all over the world to teach you how to evaluate coffee beans, or like really random things out of the way, that you design your own sneaker that you would have never done anywhere, that brings you to work with each other and have a good time with each other, and in communal ways or whatever. So there's dinners, there is the podcast pods, there's the activations, there's the parties, there is the sessions to take you off site, there's the sessions to keep you on site. There's so many things that we do to foster community.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So okay, if like again, like I'm just going a million things. I love this idea of like the pods outside. You know, like we've done it for a couple conferences, but like the idea of like making it like I think more of a commonplace, because I think that we're at this stage right now too where we have to keep remembering that our events have to be personalized for the way that people want to enjoy the content
Right.
too. You know, like I've talked about like how seating, for example, needs to be different. You guys are very famous for doing like lots of different seating on the inside and like building these incredibly custom like amphitheater setups like within ballrooms and things like that, which is so cool. Which, by the way, if you guys ever get a chance, like I think it's on YouTube. I think you can watch them behind the scenes where you get to see some of the construction of your guys' stages. They're incredible.
You can go to our sizzle reel also on our website, where you can actually see some of the stuff that's happening at TED. This is the first year we've done something like that.
Oh, nice. Cool. Okay. So I definitely think that like people need to remember that, hey, not everyone wants to just sit and listen all the time. Some people want to engage and talk simultaneously too, which is cool. Okay. So, okay, I'll keep going on my line based on stuff that you're talking about. So you talked a lot about how there's other stuff happening at the flagship conferences other than the content. But like I think what everyone knows of is obviously the content stuff. So how much would you say of the audience are engaging with things outside of the main big, content sessions? How much are people engaging outside of it? So would you say that like, oh, when the talks happen, everyone goes into that room or is in the hallways listening? Or is it like a typical conference where like 50% of the people are listening to content and there's 50% of people who never even attend any of the content and they maybe watch it online afterwards? Like, what does that breakdown look like for you guys in terms of like where people are at any given moment during the conference?
People really sit and listen to our content for the simple fact that you go in thinking you want to hear certain speakers, but the standouts are the people you never even knew existed that give these amazing talks. And you're like, oh my God, I'm so happy I was in this room. I would have never picked this to listen to before, but they blew me away. Every single speaker we train to create something that's really engaging and impactful to the audience. And we really work with them a lot to shape their stories to do that. We don't do panels because we can't get that out of putting a panel together. That's why we do the 18-minute talks. Once in a while, we'll do interviews because some people just aren't comfortable being that raw, I would say, up there by themselves. There's no monitor. So you can't read your slides. You can't read. You are literally giving this.
You're like acting. You have to give like a performance in a lot of ways.
You are giving a performance or whatever. And if there's an interview, it's more because this person was, maybe a premium business person, celebrity, blah, blah, blah. Most times you are up there on that stage giving that talk by yourself. And we put a lot of effort because we know how much people care about the content, and people who come there care about the content, but they don't have to be in that room. They sit in we have very full simulcast lounges that are happening around the stage. And then, our stage isn't 8 hours straight of content. You have a lot of breaks and ways that you can kind of engage and have experiences off it. So most people have other experiences other than sitting in the stage, in the theater. And so we've shaped it in a way that people can have as much time as they need to really get something out of the content, but also have as much time as they need to get something out of the full TED experience.
Cool. Oh, this is awesome. Definitely fascinating. I was wondering if there was like maybe like a part that I didn't think of, but it's because I haven't attended a TED flagship yet, but I have a feeling I need to in the short term. I've had tons of friends go and hype it up in a lot of ways. So I'm like, I just need to, now I have more time on my hands. I think I need to fit it in for sure.
Right.
But yeah, I guess it makes sense that like the content's so famous that like that becomes like when that happens, it's the magnet that brings everybody together. So you talked about like the preparation it takes. Oh, real quick. I want to say that I think that you guys are right about panels. I think a lot of times, panels is like a very, I don't want to offend anybody who plans panels, but I think they're like a very weak way to like try to convey content in a lot of ways. Like I always feel like panels, you only hit the surface level. You get like the one person who says something, and then the other three people are like, I agree, I agree, I agree. You don't really ever see like a real in-depth conversation in a lot of ways. So I think it's really smart that you guys have never done panels, and I never realized that. Like I've been watching TED Talks for so long. I'm like, yeah, there's no panels.
You've never seen a panel.
Yeah, but I've seen the interviews before, and the interviews are also really good. You can tell, yeah, like they're usually somebody who's like they didn't have like a huge presentation to build. They may not have had the time to build it, but they still had big conveying ideas to come out, it still comes off really, really well because you guys have preparation for it. So,
well, we're not just content coordinators; we're content trainers, and that there's a difference than just meshing people together or putting someone on the stage, having 1 to 2 calls with them to say, this is what tell me what you're going to talk about, blah, blah, blah. No, not everybody are great speakers. Not everyone knows how to convey a dynamic topic. But it might live in them. They just don't know the tools and the tactics to do that. So like I said, we put a lot of time and a lot of work. We have a full curation team of people that this is all they do is to find speakers, to find the right topics, and to train these speakers to give dynamic talks 100%, not just make an agenda of 400 speakers or 300 speakers, but 80 speakers are a lot. And we dedicate a lot of time to those 80 speakers to make sure they give dynamic talks.
That was a perfect transition to one of my next questions, which was, can you talk through like what that content team looks like? So you said they're not only curators. Are they curators the same people who are also training as well, or is this like separate teams? Can you talk through what that process looks like? Because I think this is something that, for a lot of us, we're going to be like, wow, you're probably going to hear right now, you guys have a massive team that does this and absolutely kills it doing it. And they're thinking to themselves, well, I'm the only one on my team that can do this. But I would love for you to walk through what this team looks like. So maybe we can all start implementing parts of this, because I feel like in 2022, it's about quality over quantity in a lot of ways. And if we can train better, we can get everyone facilitating better, we can get everybody conveying the ideas better like you guys do, we can have better conferences too. So talk through like, what does that team look like? And, what is there any surprising things that you're like, I bet you didn't know about this?
I would say they're a little less than 10.
Oh, wow. 10 people do 80 talks.
Yeah. So, we do talks more. Remember, that's just one flagship. We have other conferences.
Yeah, true.
We get a majority of our stuff from that. And we also have membership programs. We curate hot topics and things like that. So we do more than just the conference stuff. But with that, we have verticals. Some of them, so financial or art or blah, blah, blah. So we really kind of split them up a little bit so they can have key focus areas. And we call them curators, not content people. Cool. And so they're curators.
My apologies to anyone who is watching this that is on that team. Curators.
But listen,
I like it. Keep going. I feel like I offended potentially someone who's probably way better at content than I ever will be.
No, it's fine. I was a content person. Look, I put panels together and I did those speakers and I had 2 to 3 calls with the speaker and said, go off, be merry, give a great talk type thing. So I was there. I was in the trenches. What is different about TED, and Chris Anderson is the one that pretty much took over TED in the early 2000s. He wrote a book on how to give a TED talk and all that beautiful stuff. So there is definitely a method to this that you can easily find and take step by step to do it. But when you look if you look at yourself as a content curator and not just a content programmer, meaning it goes beyond just putting the agenda together. So we've split it out where we are trying to put a full story together that 8 speakers, that this one starts with this part of the story, this one starts with that part. We're taking you on a journey during what we call a session. And that session can have 5 speakers, 6 speakers, 8 speakers in that session that's really talking to a particular theme in a very particular way. Mm-hmm. And it's about curating the journey for the attendee to get that impactful talk. And so it's not piecemealing content together. It's how do I help the person that's sitting in that seat or watching on that screen get a cup full of content that makes sense together within this particular area? Or how can I make sure that they're going to think immediately different about something, whether good or bad, from that 18-minute talk? Like, something has to change. How can we make sure we're pulling out those nuggets in each and every talk that will either make you feel inspired, motivated, or actually enact change within you? And so, if we know that's our foundation and that's our basis, we are not just trying to mesh people together just to have a conversation where one or two things might be a standout to it, or we're not trying to just have one speaker be able to just tell a story in the way they feel comfortable in telling it. We are really working hard at curating an experience for the person sitting in the seat.
Amazing. Wow. Okay. I think it's also really cool that you bring up that point too, of like, not just deliver it how you feel like is the best way to do it, but also like, let's kind of take it to that next level. Let's see if there's a way that maybe we can push you as a speaker out of your comfort zone to deliver it in a certain way too. So you talk a lot about like this process and like how you guys like are very particular about how things have to be done. So I've planned a couple and done production for a couple TEDx's before, and you're like, I tell people all the time, if you want to like a guide for how to do production the right way for a content, like a general session, whatever it is, I'm like, just read the TEDx guide and follow your guys' rules. Like, you guys have been preaching like you need at least 4 cameras with one angle being this way, one angle being this way for so many years. And I tell people, I'm like, just follow those rules. That's why all the TEDx's look so well. That's why the flagship, like everything just looks so consistent on brand. Like you talked about, it's almost like it's that franchisee kind of model where you are creating that guide for everything to look really consistent. So like, absolutely killer. I absolutely love it. So if you ever get a chance to get your hands on one of those TEDx guides, they're awesome. It's like such a nerdy, like well-written guide. So props to you guys on that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about a thing that I'm actually not sure about. So I'm a little embarrassed that I probably should know the answer to this, but everybody's talking about hybrid events right now and how we need to have a virtual audience and an in-person audience and simultaneous. But from my understanding, and tell me if I'm wrong, I don't think you guys do any sort of online live stream of simultaneous of the flagship conference. Is that correct? Or am I wrong? I'm wrong. Okay. So I'm completely wrong. So talk me through, what is your guys' like hybrid event strategy now moving into like and beyond to reach these global audiences simultaneously, other than the content, the kind of recorded content getting posted afterwards? What sort of live stuff are you guys doing, and how are you guys looking at hybrid?
So I'm now thinking more about the hybrid experience. Now, remember, TED has been around a long time, and a lot of people who worked at TED have worked at TED for a long time. So it's about, doing what has worked. It's tradition, what has worked. And I come from a different world. I was hired.
You're like, I want to break things.
I call myself the troublemaker. Like, I come from a world where I feel like I could have best of both worlds here, and we just have to figure it out, and we will figure it out. So I'm thinking more about how hybrid can play into our strategy and our plans, but it has basically been a simulcast stream that people can just have access to really see those talks live. And it's a really different experience than just going on YouTube, because what happens on YouTube, there's an edited version of that. There, you don't get kind of the explanation from the host on certain things. Mm-hmm. You don't see how everything is kind of weaved together for that session. Like I said, it's 5 to 8 speakers really talking about a particular theme in a particular way that's really giving such an inspirational, motivational experience to that attendee sitting there watching it. But on YouTube, you just see what that cut of that particular speaker
You see that one talk and out of the 5 rather than the larger theme that you guys are trying to create. Right. Interesting.
And so it gives, those talks are fabulous. It can definitely do everything that we want it to do with that one talk. But when you sit there and you see how all of it is kind of weaved together in that particular way, it gives you a very different experience. And so people have been able, I don't necessarily know we've always done the best job of marketing that is available.
That's probably my fault too. I'm also like head in the sand. I'm so focused sometimes that I'm like, oh yeah, like, the like YouTube's the main way I've digested a lot of the talks in the past.
Right.
So that's my fault
we're thinking about it. Yeah, we're thinking about it differently. But we want to make sure that we give a premium experience in that too. Like, everything is top notch, best in class, premium, in everything that we do. And so we always want to make sure we plan out the processes and the planning and make sure that we can do that. But yeah, you have been able. I gave my son a live stream pass to TED or whatever, and he's in first year of college. Like, he sat through a lot of that stuff, which is very rare.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
And enjoyed a lot of the content and how it was kind of showcased. So yeah, it exists.
So what's interesting is I was thinking about this just now is like, everybody right now, I think like potentially one of the most long-term recurring issues within the events industry, like challenges that everyone always talks about is audience engagement. Like, how do we keep our audience engaged and things like that? And what's interesting is, you guys don't have any sort of chat. You don't have a live Q&A. You don't. You have a live Q&A, I think, for some talks, but it's always in person. You guys don't do like a live stream person can ask a question, correct? In a lot of ways,
we
like
do.
You do. Okay, cool.
So we have.
I'm so ignorant on the internet right now. I need to do better interview prep apparently over here. Okay, so you guys do that sort of stuff.
It's membership. So we actually have where you can become a member of TED. It's like a $5 donation. It's a donation aspect for it. And we actually program content with some of these amazing speakers, TED speakers or new speakers that we find, where you can be a part of that particular stream and ask questions of that speaker and engage with that speaker and all that other kind of stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that people don't know that TED does.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
It's over a dozen different things, over a dozen. And so there is no surprise that maybe you are not aware of some of these things, because like I said, the brand of the TED Talk is so huge and so big that people don't even think, is there anything else that you do? And we really do other things.
That's amazing. Well, I think what I was like, oh well, yeah, you guys don't do chat or Q&A. So I'm like, so how do you guys get your audience engaged? So I think I still want to know that question though. Like, how do you guys, when especially on the virtual side of things, because like it sounds like the experience is so amazing, and because people, it's almost like a pilgrimage in a lot of ways to go to a flagship conference. How do you guys get the virtual audience to stay engaged, when they're at home potentially watching out in their pajamas on their TV, watching live?
Well, we have a very robust app called TED Connect that lives beyond the conference. And you can actually connect with the speaker in TED. It's 24/7, 365 all year round, where these community members stay and they kind of engage with each other. We're actually doing a virtual event the last week of October called TED Women Presents. And the reason why we're doing this virtual experience is because we decided to move TED Women from California to Atlanta. It's going to be in Atlanta in 2023. Amazing. And in person. And we needed a longer runway because I literally kind of just made that decision, but I wanted to make sure I brought that community together. And we are thinking about various ways. Well, you can do the chat, you can connect inside the app or outside on the platform, keeping that app live 365 and servicing that and making sure people still have opportunity to connect. It's funny because there's something called the TED Ache.
Oh, and so what's that? I haven't heard this.
So yeah. So after you come to a TED conference experience, it is so rare to be in spaces where you can truly be your authentic self and have some of those wonderful conversations and meet so many curious people that you immediately miss it when you leave. And so people actually email us about how they physically feel like how hard it is that they missed what they just experienced because it was such an authentic experience for them. And so that was one of the reasons why we kept some of these technological things live for the year, so we can kind of combat the TED Ache that people were having, because that type of environment literally is very rare.
Very, very rare. Oh, wow. That's like, I mean, that's just, to circle it back to the whole like community piece. That's also why community is so important, is that like, a lot of times when we're planning these events, like I call it sometimes like you guys sound like it's like an intellectually intensive version of like the camp FOMO,
Yes, right.
like I always call it camp FOMO, like when you're leaving and you're like, oh man, I miss everybody. Oh, and it's like, and you feel like your serotonin levels have dropped in a lot of ways,
That's it.
that's where I think like community psychologically, like you said, helps because you can continue that thriving energy and the support and things like that. And I think it can like help that the TEDache, but also then too like be able to extend that energy to that 365 that you were talking about.
Yeah, listen, we are happy to be that connective tissue for people. And like I said, the only reason we have people who've been coming to TED for 20 years, 15 years or whatever, they look forward to it. They bring their child when they're old enough to come to TED to bring them in so they could become what we call TEDsters. Like it's a thing here when it
That's awesome.
comes to, and it's all because community has been the heartbeat and the heart of everything that we've done. It has not been about, okay, how much more revenue? Like there's an application process. We curate the audience that comes to some of these flagship events. Like we really care, truly care about your experience at the conference. It's not about anything else but being that connective tissue. And then that makes it a connective tissue to us because they look forward to that and they're like, I gotta come again. I don't care how I figure it out, but this I found my people and I want to make sure I stay with my people in some form of fashion. So we love that. We love the feedback of I can't get this experience anywhere else but TED.
I love it. I feel like that's a really like good moment for us to start wrapping up because it's like I think we could talk about this forever. I think we're definitely going to need to get you back on the show to keep deep diving even more further into this because you guys have so many parts of the event that apparently I'm not even aware of. So I think I'm going to go do some post interview research. Exactly, exactly. And I think I have to put it on the bucket list right now to come next year for sure. So so Monique, as we start to wrap up, I'd love to ask my two like famous ending questions for you. So, for somebody who's like, you've kind of reached like the pinnacle mountain of events that you can work for in terms of it. My question is like, where do you go to get like your inspiration, your resources? What do you use to keep organized? Where do you go to learn things? Like, what are your favorite resources for learning and growing in the events industry?
I love to look at creatives on social media. It's not even about what's happening in events. I look at creatives, whether it's art, whether it's fashion, whether it's architecture, how people are putting art on buildings or whatever, whether it's tech art or whatever, NFTs, all this other kind of stuff. Whatever it is, it's like, how can I say, that's a jumping off point for me to really think, or that's a jumping off point for the team to really think about how we can elevate this experience because of a shape that we saw, or how something clashed together in a particular way, or, and do we go to industry events? Sure. Do we kind of look at what other people are posting on social media? Sure. But we really love the outside of that. Like what's outside of what normal events people wouldn't be looking at for inspiration, and how can we replicate that in an event format?
So who's someone that you follow right now, or like that's like in that creative world that you recently are like, oh my gosh, I just love this person's stuff right now, or this company's stuff? Like what's piquing you're like probably like, let me check the Instagram, the blog feed and stuff like so. So that's
Rafiq. He is a artist and he's actually done art installations at TED as well as all around the world, and the movement of his art and how he the colors, even just from a color standpoint, how can we ingrain those colors into, if you ever look at go to the TED website for, and we're announcing next year's conferences, the color schemes and the way that we do things, like this is all inspired by just artists in the world and the way people are doing things very differently. I don't know if we take enough time within the events industry to break shit. Am I supposed to say?
You're totally good to cuss. You're good. Keep going. Yeah, you're good.
to break it, to rebuild it over and over and over again. Like one of the things that I loved about Money 2020 was during the pandemic when we said, okay, we're going to have a show and we're going to bring it back in 2021. Let's throw away everything that made us successful. Let's throw away the exhibit floor plan. Let's throw away everything that worked or whatever. and break it and rebuild it, because people are going to look to experience events very differently than they did pre-pandemic. So instead of us doing a grid floor plan, like we have 500 sponsors, we did circles. We were like, follow the yellow brick road, figure out what you're going to bump into and see that's different and unique and that you're going to be in awe about or whatever. It's just, and that's one of the things that I challenge with my team. What are we taking risks on? Knowing that everything might not go over successful. I want you to take risks. I want you to think differently. I want you to be creative. Even if it worked before and you don't want to let it go, let it go. Let's see what else we can do, because we are surprising and delighting these people every chance that we can get every year. So if that person's been coming for 20 years, it feels like TED, but it doesn't have to look the same every time.
I love it. I use the term, don't just think outside the box, crush the box and start like totally new, right? Like, I love that. I love that you guys also did that too. Like, you just, so many people right now, I think in this day and age, and I think this happens no matter what, is we get so stuck in copy and paste templated mode because it's easy. It's, oh, it worked before. No one's complaining about it. But in reality, it's like, well, just because they're not complaining about it doesn't mean that there's an opportunity for that growth like you're talking about. So amazing. Okay. So now, I mean, this is so full of chock full of nuggets, but I'm going to give you one chance to drop like an epic tip on us. Like, what's your like number one tip? Someone's planning an event today and you need to like get them to really, create an amazing event. What's your one tip that you would leave our audience with?
And it's not even about the event. It's about internally. How do you continually showcase the value to the higher ups in your organizations about what you do? Because one of the things that we always continue to have struggles with is investment. And knowing that we do want to try different things and we do want to do things differently, and we have to evolve our events. And it's hard to get the purses to open for that. And so one of the things that I'm constantly thinking about and doing is showing the metrics and value of what I do, whether it's from a revenue standpoint, whether it's from an experience standpoint, whether we got all of this press or comms. I am, whether they ask for it or not, I have it in my back pocket to always show the value, because when I need to ask for more money, you know why, and you understand why. So as a business, look at as an event planner, as you are a business owner, and you have shareholders, and you always have to showcase what you're doing and how you're doing it, and you're helping to elevate the brand, the revenue, and the value of this particular asset or product. And so you got to switch it to business mind and really learn how to manage up properly. And that is continually showing the value of what you do.
Amazing. Wow. You like brought it full circle right back to the beginning of the episode. It was amazing. That's so great. I love it completely. And it's really cool, I think, and refreshing to hear that advice too from, an event that, like, in a lot of ways, like, you kind of think to yourself, oh yeah, like, I think people make jokes all the time. Oh yeah, like if we were TED, if we were Dreamforce, you start talking about like the pinnacle top 10 events in the entire world when it comes to business conferences. We think to ourselves like, yeah, they just like, every year they get an unlimited budget and they just get to do whatever they want. It's like, no, like they still have like, budgets. They still have bosses they have to report to. They have all the same restrictions we have, or that anybody has, that we need to also do the same thing. So I think it's refreshing for people to realize yes, we need to keep doing that. And even Monique, head of conferences of TED, has to do it too, which I absolutely love. So thank you so much for that.
We are business strategists. We're not just event producers. We're business strategists. And we always have to keep that top of mind.
100%. Well, Monique, oh my gosh, what an incredible episode and journey you've taken us through. It blew my mind in terms of things I didn't even know.
There were a lot of things that
it's so good, so amazing. It was perfect. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast and talking today and letting us get a little bit of it behind the scenes of TED and everything that you guys are doing that's making your guys' conference so amazing.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. And thank you to our audience, each of you, for asking questions. You guys seemed to be pretty quiet today, so not a ton of questions from the audience, but it's probably because they were completely mind blown about everything that was possible on here. So thank you to audience for joining us, all those who are joining us live. That's the best way to watch, but all the people who are also joining us in the recorded version as well on, Spotify and Apple Podcasts and everything like that. But I'm going to start blabbing on. Monique, thank you again for being here. Audience, thank you so much for being here. And let's play that outro, and we'll see you everyone next time on Event Icons.
Thank you for joining us for another amazing episode of #Event Icons. To catch all of the bonus content, resources mentioned, and an invite to our Facebook and LinkedIn groups, head to www.event-icons.com. Also, let us know what you thought about this week's episode. Share your biggest takeaway, and just tag your social media posts with #Event Icons. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again soon, right here on #Event Icons.